where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hello, 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 Jordan Sheridan, live again, doing very well, back from London, England, where I was for, 5 or 6 days, and I am in no mood at all, for any malarkey. This is a no malarkey live stream, if you know what I'm saying. It's been probably a week since I've been live, so a lot to catch up on, a lot to commiserate about. I was in London on vacation, but of course can't actually relax or not cover the news. And as I always talk about, part of my political knowledge, part of my connection to on the ground what's going on in America, while the rest of the media fixates on nonsense, is going out with the people and being on the streets in the United Corporations of America, and now being out in London and talking to protesters there, activists there. It gives you a whole new perspective on the fact that this is not only a domestic struggle against neoliberalism. This is a global struggle against neoliberalism. The UK has a lot of the same issues we have here in the United Corporations of America. They might have socialized medicine, but that socialized medicine that is working for them is under attack from right-wingers in their government and from Democrats and Republicans in America, if you believe that, trying to get their hands on the UK's National Health Service. So we're going to get into all of that and quite a lot more. Is Jordan on the toilet? Wouldn't that be nice if I could go live from the toilet? Do I look like I'm on the toilet? No, I am in an undisclosed location. I'm not going to say where, but I am in an undisclosed location, and I am feeling wonderful. And by the way, just so you know, for the 160 people watching, before this live stream, I was on the phone for quite a while with a source, and the story that Jen and I have been working on, we're close. We're getting a lot closer to publishing this damn thing. Just got a whole lot bigger. Honestly, I think it might have to be 2 stories. I don't even think we're going to be able to get all this information into 1 story. But the floodgates are opening, folks, as far as this story we're working on. Stay tuned. I'm hoping to make it an early Christmas present. So, before I get started on a lot of the stories going on, I need you to remember, and the screen's going to go black for a second because I have to put in our new checklist. Colin just sent it to me. New checklist. I need every one of you to press the like button. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. We are T-minus 4 days away. 4 days away. December 10th is when YouTube, or as I like to call it, FewTube, is coming out with their new terms of service or whatever. And part of that terms of service, I've covered it before, is they're going to start purging channels that aren't, quote, commercially viable. So as such, whatever that means. A lot of people have done videos on it. I don't know what commercially viable means, but I do know YouTube made it vague enough that they could just start purging channels they don't want on the platform. Status Coup is commercially viable. You help us make it commercial viable by watching, by pressing the like button, by super chats, which are very helpful to showing we're commercially viable. But in the event, hopefully it doesn't happen. In the event that we are purged, along with other channels at some point, we are trying to build up. So here's how you could help us build up so that if we are no longer on YouTube, we could get the message out and bring people to where we are. So I need all of you to take it seriously right now. Press the like button. If you have not, please go to your phone, text 474747. So you just go to click the button to make a new text, enter the number 474747, and then enter Coup. That will add you to our text alert system. It is, Jen just informed me how expensive it is to have these text alerts, but we need it. We're going to need it for the short term and the long term. So get on them. And also, follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter, but we also just added to the checklist, follow us on Twitch. In that unlikely event, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but in the unlikely event that we are off YouTube or whatever, we want to build our following on Twitch, which we're live on right now. So follow us, even if you're not on Twitch on your own, sign up, follow us on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Status Coup. Because if, for whatever reason, commercially viable, if YouTube is just making it up as they go along and gets rid of channels, we want to make sure that we build our audience elsewhere. So that's Twitch. Twitch.tv/Status Coup, and join our email list at statuscoup.com. We're actually currently making some tweaks. We're making some tweaks to the website, so that should be done shortly. It's not a total redo of the website, but little tweaks to make the website look a little bit better. So, lastly, you know the drill. While I was in London, we lost a couple members. Credit cards get declined. Whatever, I wasn't on for a week, so maybe people get restless. We're at 744 now. We were at 765, so it's about 20 people we lost. Love you anyway, the people we lost. For the people that are on the fence, you know the drill. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Makes a huge difference. We want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. Hopefully that's possible. I think the story Jen and I are trying to publish before the end of the year might help with that, but you could join us and support us, statuscoup.com/join. Jen is at a Christmas thing with her kids, so if you could drop the link in, that would be helpful. So, I'm gone for a week, and I got to tell you something. The fossil fuel industry is obviously on its last, gasping for its last, they're taking its last stand. They're on their last stand. They know it's unsustainable for them to keep raking in the money by destroying the planet. Eventually, they're going to be put out of business. And I think that the corporate Democratic establishment has that kind of same viewpoint. They know the tide is turning. They see the crowds for Bernie. They see even Warren, to a lesser extent, saying populist things. They see 2 out of the 4 top candidates are definitely to the left of Obama and Biden. You know what I think about Elizabeth Warren, but definitely Bernie. They see Medicare for All polling very strongly. They see a Green New Deal polling very strongly. They see things like free public college polling very, very strongly. So they're just hoping and praying that there's just they could squeeze out one more election with a neoliberal at the helm. First, they were pushing Kamala, but she just couldn't do it. She didn't have it. She was for the people, but unfortunately those people were from Wall Street, and she could never shine through. She had no spine. She was for Medicare for All for 24 hours and then moonwalked. Literally, after announcing. 24 hours later, she moonwalked after she said she was Medicare for All. Then they tried to prop up Beto, literally prop him up, standing on a bar constantly. That failed. Then they were happy because Biden announced, and they thought, oh, great, he's got the Obama connection, he's got the resume, and he's got the fake populist thing, middle class Joe. We'll get him in. But unfortunately, Biden's kind of it's like that CD player that's on a delay or something like that. There's something going on with Biden, so the establishment has had to hedge their bets for the eventuality that Biden collapses. I don't mean physically. I'm not wishing him poor health, but politically collapses. Enter Pete Buttigieg. And all of this at the same time, they have been trying to push Buttigieg, hoping that Biden makes it. But if Biden doesn't, trying to prop up Buttigieg, not only to make sure a neoliberal wins, but more importantly, make sure that Bernie Sanders never even breathes near that Oval Office. So while I was in London, Kamala's out. Goodbye. Have nothing to say about that. She didn't want to be embarrassed in California. She wanted to put herself in a good position to be Joe Biden's vice president. And shocker, Joe Biden just came out saying he'd consider her. It's either going to be Kamala or Stacey Abrams for Biden. I don't think it's going to be Booker or anyone else. So now Buttigieg, if you look at Real Clear Politics, again, I don't put complete stock in the polls. I think some of them are nonsense. But if you look at Real Clear Politics, Buttigieg, on average, is leading in Iowa. Bernie on second place. Warren, third place. Biden all the way in fourth place. I think there is a very much a unregistered or a portion of the Bernie vote that does not come up on polls because Bernie's campaign as a strategy has been really, really trying to get new voters to come out. Bernie's campaign has also been trying to get non-voters who maybe voted in the past but don't vote anymore. They've been trying to expand the electorate with more young voters, more new voters, more voters that have been checked out for a couple elections but are coming back, particularly in Iowa, but other states too. And those people are not called by pollsters. So I think Iowa is totally up in the air. And that is why the thing that could completely tank Buttigieg's campaign is being held in secret, completely held in secret, to the point where it's embarrassing, totally embarrassing. So, remember, we got almost 300 people watching. 157 of you have pressed that like button. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. Smash that like button. It's 5:30 on a Friday night. We're just getting started. So, Buttigieg, up until now, has really not been asked any tough questions. He's never asked, hey, what have you done in South Bend, Indiana, other than gentrify downtown, make it beautiful for 10 to 15 blocks, make sure homeless people are pushed aside. I've spoken with residents in South Bend who talk about basically his police and his officials have literally forced homeless people out of their sleeping locations under bridges and things like that without providing them anywhere to go during the day. The public library that was a daytime shelter for homeless people in these frigid, dangerous conditions in the winter is under construction. Mayor Pete is too busy going around the country running for DNC, now president. There's literally no daytime shelter for the homeless in South Bend, Indiana, a huge scandal that he's not being asked about. Then you have the fact that what has he accomplished? South Bend, Indiana. The crime has gone up in South Bend, Indiana. South Bend, Indiana. Deep poverty in South Bend, Indiana. Literally, Donald Trump has more support among black people than Pete Buttigieg has in a city of 100,000 people. And of course, Pete Buttigieg, as the upper middle class / managerial professional class, after going to an Ivy League college, what did he do? He wrote, it was time to enter the real world, i.e., go and join vulture company McKinsey as a consultant. And let me explain what a consultant means at a company like McKinsey. And let me explain what McKinsey is for those in the back that don't know. McKinsey is a, quote, management company, which is vague enough. And companies like McKinsey consult those great clients like the dictatorship of Saudi Arabia, like clients like brutal dictators from Saudi Arabia to Iraq and other countries. McKinsey has consulted pretty much most of the clients that have overthrown democratically elected governments in many of the countries around the world that the United States is involved with. McKinsey has consulted for chemical companies that are poisoning you. And consult, that could mean a whole lot of things. I mean, it could be consulting as far as legal strategy to handle lawsuits, to public relations strategies. It's all a very open, vague thing. That's the point of consulting. It's a whole lot of everything. And Buttigieg, right out of college, went as a consultant to McKinsey. Only we have no idea what he did there, which I kind of think is relevant. If your only experience politically is being a mayor of a city of 100,000 people, and before that you served in the military, which I respect, that's great, thank you for your service, but other than that, you were a consultant for this vulture company. Isn't it relevant? What did you do? Who were your clients? What was your portfolio? Don't we want to know this man's worldview? Don't we want to know what exactly were some of the issues that he consulted on? Wouldn't that be relevant to how he would make decisions as president of the United Corporations of America? But Buttigieg, who is funded literally by some of the wealthiest plutocrats in America, other than Biden, Buttigieg has benefited from Wall Street like nobody else. He says he can't talk about it because of a non-disclosure. Can't talk about it because when you sign on at a place like McKinsey, you can't talk after you leave. You're bound by a non-disclosure. That might be true. He might be telling the truth that you're bound by a non-disclosure. However, I find it a little hard to believe that somebody with more money than Joe Biden, he's got more money in his campaign than Joe Biden, somebody with Wall Street support, healthcare support, he's gotten oil money, he's gotten money from lobbyists, all of his support, is worried about breaking a non-disclosure from McKinsey consultants. I don't know about you, I find that very hard to believe, because here's how it would go. He vaguely talks about what he did, what his department was, who he consulted for. Doesn't have to go into discussions he had, but just gives us the overview. What's going to happen? You think McKinsey is going to sue one of the leading Democratic Party contenders for breaching a non-disclosure? This is like, if you watch Shawshank Redemption, Morgan Freeman breaking parole. Red breaking parole. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to give away what happened in Shawshank. Are they really going to fret over an old crook like Morgan Freeman in Shawshank breaking parole? I want to read just a little bit. This is from Common Dreams. They have a good article about this. Days after reports surfaced about the global consulting firm McKinsey's work advising the Trump administration on immigration policy, calls are growing louder for South Bend, Indiana mayor and 2020 candidate Buttigieg to disclose details about the work he did for the company. Political observers took notice Thursday evening when the New York Times editorial board joined ethics watchdogs in demanding Buttigieg release the information, saying his claim that he is bound by a non-disclosure agreement creates a situation that is untenable. Mr. Buttigieg owes voters a more complete account of his time at the company. Voters seeking an alternative to Mr. Trump should demand that candidates not only reject Mr. Trump's positions, but also his behavior, including his refusal to share information about his health and his business dealings. This standard requires Buttigieg to talk about his time at McKinsey. Buttigieg worked for McKinsey from 2007 to 2010. I don't know. I think, was there something that happened between 2007 and 2010? A global financial crash? I wonder, did McKinsey have anything to do with advising the big banks that brought down your 401ks? Did McKinsey have anything to do with the big banks that foreclosed on your homes? Did McKinsey have anything to do with consulting the very politicians that let the bankers go free? I'd like to know. And did Pete Buttigieg, did he have anything to do with that consulting? You would think my money's on he consulted on military matters and the military-industrial complex, but who knows? He could have had a portfolio that includes consulting on everything from banking to military to artificial intelligence, for all we know. Who the heck knows? Only Mayor Pete knows, but he won't tell anybody. Isn't that interesting? By the way, this is a super chat, so if you're feeling super that we're back on the air after my voyage across the pond, let us know. It's always appreciated. So there's another part of this that I find very, very interesting. You have the company denounced by one critic as a corporate greed machine has advised authoritarian regimes, including Saudi Arabia's monarchy, state-owned companies in China, and the autocratic government of Turkish President Erdogan. In 2017, McKinsey consultants advised Trump Customs and Border Protection Agency on detention-saving opportunities, recommending ways to reduce the amount of food and medical care immigrants were given while being detained by the U.S. government. Wow, what a stand-up company this is. You know, McKinsey makes Mitt Romney's Bain Capital look like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America, if you ask me.
Don't forget Deval.
Deval
Patrick.
Oh, Deval Patrick, too. The proposed cuts. So, although Buttigieg no longer worked for McKinsey when the company advised CBP and ICE, Jeff Hauser of the government watchdog Revolving Door Project told the Huffington Post that Buttigieg must confirm whether his work was guided by the same worldview that led the company to recommend letting asylum seekers go hungry to save money. So, I could read more, but you get the point. You get the point here. And I am here to give you a different take on this. Jordan, you should have stayed here east of the Atlantic. What do you want? Okay, I got a cheap trip. I wanted to go across the pond with my lady. We had a nice time. I got to take a few days off here and there. Kelly Elaine, thank you for the $2 and your other donation I saw the other day. I really, really appreciate it. So I don't actually think Pete Buttigieg is worried about releasing information about what he did at McKinsey. Honestly, my guess, it wasn't anything that spectacular. He was not a high up there. He was fresh out of college. He might have, he could have been a consultant with other consultants advising a client. And it might have been kind of, I don't want to say harmless, but it might have not been the blockbuster people think it might have been. Possibly he was advising 2007 to 2010 clients related to the Iraq war withdrawal, right? Afghanistan, we were still in our first decade. We're now going on 20 years from 2007 to 2010. That's when Obama started using drone warfare. He could have been consulting on many different things, but I actually don't think he's hiding it because it's going to make him look so bad. I actually think he's hiding it because the very donors that his campaign and his political life depends on love a company like McKinsey Consultants. It's all part of the meritocracy because the neoliberal order sustains itself. And when I say the neoliberal order, I'm talking about dating back for the 1980s, the Democratic Leadership Council. You had the Kochs funding the Democratic Leadership Council, which is that council spawned the Al Gores of the world, the Bill Clintons of the world. Then you have obviously Bill Clinton, who, as Jimmy Dore says, got right-wing shit passed that only Ronald Reagan could dream of. Then you have the Obamas of the world, the Hillary Clintons of the world, the Joe Bidens of the world. It's all that neoliberal bubble that enables Republicans to get the toxic shit they want to get through because we don't have a real opposition party. We have essentially country club Republicans in the Democratic Party and crazy right-wingers in the Conservative Party. But still, neoliberalism, and Obama has this worldview, Hillary Clinton has this worldview, Pete Buttigieg has this worldview, MSNBC exudes this worldview, that leadership is about meritocracy. What school did you go to? What degrees do you have? Which firms did you work for? Who did you lobby for on the Hill? Who did you advise on the Hill as a advisor or staffer to as a congressman or a senator. It's all about the resume. It's not about on the ground experience with struggling people. It's about what's on your resume. What names do I know that you clerked for or assisted or things like that? Do you have a MD or a PhD, TTM, whatever? I don't have any of those degrees, but I did graduate cum laude from the University of Tampa. So thank you. And I want to say thank you for some super chats here. Tim Tautiful, $10. Patriot Act extended in bipartisan effort. #resist. Ugh, don't get me started. So thank you for the super chat. Sarab Nalawade, $10. Hey, what happened to your big scoop story? When are we going to hear about it? Did you come late? I literally was on the phone for 2 hours before this live stream related to that story. I can give you an update that I don't want to say too much, but currently I'm on Jen and I are on the second draft of this story. So the first draft has been sent to the outlet that we're doing it for. They like it, but they say it's too long, so I'm trying to cut the story down. So we are currently on the second draft of the story, but fortunately, the outlet we're working on wants us to cut it down, but I just got bombshell information today that either we're going to have a longer word count or we're going to have 2 stories. But it's not completely in my control when it's published because we are working on it for a larger outlet, but the hope is that it's published before the new year. And the wait will be worth it when you see what we have. Trust me about that. Thank you for your $10. Nate Dog 1, $2. Jordan, would you vote for Tulsi still? When did I say I'm voting for Tulsi? I'm voting for Bernie. I don't know if you mean would I vote for Tulsi, period, or versus Bernie. You got to specify. I'm voting for Bernie. He's always been my number one. Would I vote for Tulsi, like, in comparison to Trump? Yeah, I would, for sure. 100%. Gladly. But I don't know what you mean, would I vote for Tulsi still? Like, in general, would I vote for her? You have to give me instead of Bernie, instead of Warren, like, what do you mean? Monarch, $2. Pete, bisexual booby doesn't advocate gay rights. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't really care that he's gay. I don't care if he's bisexual. I don't care. That has nothing to do with anything. God bless him. I think it's a good thing that a gay man is being seriously considered for the presidency. I also think it's a good thing that it's not really being discussed because it should just be a normal thing. Oh, I'm straight, you're gay, whatever. Doesn't matter to me that he's gay. It shouldn't matter to you. I'm sure you didn't mean anything negative about it, but I'm just saying, to me, that's neither here or there. So, again, I think Pete Buttigieg, period, sorry. Would I vote for Tulsi, period? Yes, I would. There's things about her I don't like, and you get in trouble on the internet because these Tulsi people, Jesus Christ, they got blinders on, and some of them have their head so far up her behind, they cannot see straight anymore. So yes, I would vote for Tulsi, but there's been some things she's done that I find concerning, and I'm not going to hold back on it. If you don't like it, tough. I think she's done some off-the-record conversations with Wall Street people I don't like. I also think, frankly, I think she came out a little bit late on the Bolivia coup. After she was criticized, she came out late on that. So I didn't love that. Bernie came out before her on the Bolivia coup. No good. There's some other things, but overall, would I vote for her? Yes, I would. So, again, Pete Buttigieg, yeah, maybe he doesn't want people to know who his clients were, things like that, but that's not what it's about. When he is eating sandwiches with Wall Street bankers, which the New York Times reported he was doing several months ago, when he's doing fundraisers on Silicon Valley in Martha's Vineyard. By the way, if you saw today, President Barack Obama and his lovely wife just bought an $11.5 million home on Martha's Vineyard. Hope and chump change for Martha's Vineyard. So Obama will retire there in the vineyard. We wish him well over there. But I really think this is about not pissing off the upper middle class / very wealthy support he has, who think places like McKinsey are just fine institutions, who think McKinsey represents essentially the Harvard of the consulting world, who think that McKinsey, yeah, they might consult for brutal dictators who are murdering children and women in Yemen, dropping bombs on school buses and weddings, but it's McKinsey. You know, that's where the best of the best go. It's the same thing as, I don't know, think of other wonderful upper echelon firms that people from Harvard and people like Buttigieg go. So, to me, he'd rather basically do the Hillary Clinton here with the, I'm not releasing the transcripts of my private speeches, or Trump, I can't release my taxes, I'm under a non-existent audit. He'd rather take the heat on that than to take the heat from his masters who are writing the checks for his campaign. Because his only hope of winning in Iowa and New Hampshire is to do what he's doing now. Make no mistake, his polling has gone up, significantly up in Iowa, because he's outspent other campaigns on the air 10-1 currently. Pete Buttigieg has outspent Biden, Bernie, Warren 10-1 in Iowa. He has been all over the TV airwaves in Iowa, and that has helped move him up in the polls. His strategy is very simple. I'm not worried about black support right now. I got to win Iowa. And then from there I'll have momentum. The media will prop me up even more, and maybe I could sniff second place in New Hampshire, and then I'll start worrying about picking up the black support. That's it. That's it. So I think it's an untenable position. I also find it laughable. Let me tell you something, okay? I have, I won't get into where, but I have a couple companies I worked for that I signed non-disclosure agreements, okay? If I had the amount of money that Pete Buttigieg has behind me, I would break that non-disclosure in a second. In a second. Because A, I could afford if there's legal challenges against me for doing so. But B, it would be great branding. If he says, fuck it, let him come after me. I'm for transparency. That would be an amazing PR strategy for his campaign. I'm not going to hide the truth from my voters and the people of what I did. But he's not going to do that because he doesn't want to piss off the people funding his caviar and champagne fundraisers, the people funding those television ads, the people funding, it's been reported that he has AstroTurf on social media. A lot of bots are propping up. Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete's campaign makes Obama, who had a very good 2007-2008 campaign, it was basically based on no substance and just all of this grandiose talk about healing the world, healing the earth, parting the Red Sea. We're gonna create a post-partisan utopia. There was never, ever anything behind Obama. I got fooled. You got fooled. You know, it is what it is. You learn for the next time. But I don't think it's a tenable position. I think Buttigieg is going to get hammered in this next debate that is on the 19th. You already see Elizabeth Warren, who has been down, like literally free-falling because she has no political spine. She was never for Medicare for all, like truly. She never firmly believed it. And that's why as soon as the money men and women of America said this, we're not going to help you, we're not going to be for you if you're proposing ending our gravy train as far as a for-profit healthcare system. That's when she started moonwalking as fast as Michael Jackson. First it was, I'm for Bernie. Then it was, well, I'm for Bernie, but I'm also for Elizabeth. So, yeah, how do you pay for it? Even though, like every other country in the world, not every other country, but most civilized countries, I just did an interview in London that I'm going to play some of in a bit. You pay a little bit more in taxes, but you get a lot more in services. That's how it works. But Elizabeth Warren agreed to this framing that we cannot charge the middle class with a tax increase. Oh, what about the middle class is already paying through the ass increases? They're just not called taxes. Copays, premiums, deductibles, co-insurance. I just got a $550 bill for endoscopy that I had. I had insurance. $550. They told me, oh, you had a new deductible effective December 2018. I said, how did I have a new deductible in December 2018? Doesn't deductibles reset in the next year, January? Oh, I don't know, but you have to pay it. So I told them, you can put me on a payment plan. I'll pay you $5 a month until it's paid off. They said, no, you have to give more. I said, could you show me the law where I have to give more than $5 a month? As long as I'm paying per month, I'm within my right. So now I'm on a payment plan for $5 a month. Gladly. And welcome, new member, just subscribed to Status Coup, Anthony. Welcome to the party, Anthony. We're now at 745 Status Coup members. Really, really appreciate it, Anthony. And by the way, for those of you asking about this big story Jen and I are hoping to break this month, there's going to be special bonus content from that story just for members. So sign up if you want even more of this major story. And I know some of you are saying, Jordan, stop teasing. We don't believe you anymore. You've been talking about this for 2 months. Let me explain, not to lecture you, but let me explain. The reason the media is so bad is because corporations run the media, and those corporations don't actually allow journalists to actually investigate something big. They don't actually allow journalists the time to investigate, report, build sources, and break a massive story, because to them it's not within their business interest to do that. Fortunately, because Jen and I have our own company called Status Coup that you're a part of, hopefully you become a member today, we have all the liberty in the world and all the freedom in the world to actually take the time to investigate things. Unfortunately, we live in a digital culture where everything wants everything now. But I promise you, and I'm promising you this, when you see this story, it's going to blow your mind, because as I write more and as Jen researches more, you can't even make this shit up in a movie. You can't make it up. You cannot make up what we're about to break. So stay tuned and become a member. Last thing I'll say on Buttigieg. Listen, the bottom line is when you're an empty privileged vessel, eventually that bubble pops. I think he's going to have a very hard time in this next debate. I think Warren has already, by name, called him out, which she does. Warren, I give her credit, has not really gone after anyone. She just went after Buttigieg because he's stealing her upper middle class voters away from her. So, Jordan, please start streaming outside of your studio. Get out more. Tim, good news on that front. Not officially, but I have found somebody as far as, at least on a temporary basis, for camera work. So I am going to be out more, probably in the next 2 weeks. This camera person is joining me next week. Going to go through some things to make sure he knows how to use all the equipment, specifically live view. Obviously, he knows how to do camera, but we have a live view. Got to make sure he can do it. And then we will be in the field quite a bit more. But I was just doing interviews in London. Hopefully that's out enough for you. Thank you, Lawrence Johnson, $3 in the super chat. So I think Buttigieg is going to have a very hard time in this next debate. I think Bernie will probably brush an elbow or two against him. I think Warren is going to go after him very, very hard. I also think it would not surprise me if Biden goes after him. I think Biden is maybe going to put out some of that, remember when Ronald Reagan did this to, was it Jim? No, it was, I don't remember who Reagan did it to, but, you don't have to apologize for your or I'm not going to attack you for your inexperience or whatever. So I think Biden might do some of this and basically use what Buttigieg has been saying for a while about, I'm the new generation and we can't rely on Washington to do things and expect a different result. I think Biden's going to twist that around on him. So in this case, I'm for it. I'm for anyone popping this empty vessel bubble. So we've gone over Buttigieg. Now I want to move over to Joseph Biden. Joseph Biden is still, got to keep it real. Oh, Mondale, thank you. It was Walter Mondale. Reagan did that too. Joseph Biden still polling nationally out front. I'm not worried about the national polls, frankly. I look at Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and California. Iowa, if the Iowa caucus were held today, I think Biden would come in third or fourth place. If New Hampshire was held today, I don't think Biden would win. If South Carolina was held today, he would win by a convincing margin. Nevada was held today. It's a 50-50, I think, between Bernie and Biden. If California was held today, I think it would be a big upset, and I think Bernie Sanders would win California. The most recent poll out of California has Bernie Sanders in the lead. Bernie Sanders is also doing significantly better than any other candidate among Latinos, which is huge in Nevada, in California, and surprisingly, there's not a big, but a decent population of Latinos in Iowa, of all places. So, Biden is trying to put out the narrative that the Democratic Party, yeah, Bernie has his people and Warren has his people, and yeah, there's these activists, but the Democratic Party isn't there. They haven't moved there. And he does interviews basically saying this shows that Biden isn't a leader, because instead of telling people where they should go and showing some vision and guiding people where they should go, he's saying, no, the Democratic Party's not there. So watch this sleazy clip of him in an interview with sleazy establishment Axios. Let's take a look.
Medicare for all. Do you think that's political
The party's
suicide?
not there. The party's not there at all. I've been
So
saying
some of
from
your
the
opponents are.
Yeah, but the party's not there. You know the numbers.
Medicare for all. Do you think that's
The
political
party's
suicide?
not there. The party's not there at all. I've been
So
saying
some
from
of your
the
opponents are.
Yeah, but the party's not there. You know the numbers.
What do you think
You
that-
guys got it all wrong about what happened, and what
You
what
sound
happened.
like Trump.
Yeah,
Fake
I
news?
do. No, look, it's not fake. It's just bad judgment. You all thought that what happened was the party moved extremely to the left after Hillary. AOC was the new party. She's a bright, wonderful person. But where's the party? Come on, man.
So I'm not sure if this interview happened before or after he called an Iowa man asking him a tougher question than any journalist has asked him, a liar, a damn liar. There was some ambiguity whether he called him fat or not. Honestly, I didn't have time to look. I looked at the video twice, but I can't tell if he called him fat or not. I can tell he significantly disrespected that voter. I can tell you that that is behavior that if Trump did it, he would be widely condemned by the media. But since Joe Biden did it, it was like, oh, it's just Joe being Joe. So who knows? I don't know if that was before or after that incident with the voter. But basically, Joe Biden his argument is that you got it all wrong. You got it all wrong. He definitely called him fat. Okay. I mean, I watched it twice. I didn't hear the fat, but I believe you guys. So he says you're all wrong why Hillary Clinton lost. And it's not because the Democratic Party has moved left. You don't know what you're talking about. AOC is a wonderful person, but, this bartender didn't take out the number 3 Democrat in the country because the party's to the left. You got it wrong. You just got it wrong. Of course, the Axios guy, because Axios is just a spin-off of Politico. They don't challenge anyone. They're just literally messengers for the establishment. He didn't really challenge them on that. So number one, when he says the party's not there on Medicare for all, I mean, if you were a prepared journalist, you would have been citing at least 7 to 10 recent polls that show the overwhelming majority of Democrats support Medicare for all. So what Biden is doing, besides lying, is recreating, altering reality. The party is for Medicare for all. He is going against public sentiment. Not only is the Democratic Party for Medicare for all, independents polled are for Medicare for all. Republicans in some polls are for Medicare for all. 50% of Republicans in a poll in 2018 were for Medicare for all. So, yes, CNN and others could point to some polls where when the polling company words it in a way that sounds like, would you be for your health care being taken away, keywords taken away in favor of a government system, yeah, it doesn't poll as well when it's worded like that. That is how polls work. You could get whatever answer you want based on the way polls are worded. Okay? But in polls where it says, would you favor expanded Medicare and cheaper healthcare through a government system, it polls incredibly well. Would you? It polls better than would you favor a public option. So Joe Biden knows this. Joe Biden doesn't care where the Democratic Party is because Joe Biden is not running based on public sentiment. He's running based on his worldview, which is stuck in the 1970s and 80s. That's what he's running based on. When he belittles Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, oh, she's a fine woman, but that's not where the party is. Well, I don't know. How did she win in New York? She beat the number 3 Democrat in the country. She was running her campaign out of a bar. How is it that, I know they say Twitter isn't real life. I don't know. I think when you get 5 million, let me tell you something. These politicians, if they could get 500,000 people for an email list, they'd say that's real life. She has, I don't know the current numbers. Let me check. Yeah, I think 6 million followers on Twitter. It is real life, if you ask me. It is real life. Thank you, Cool Blue 71. $4.99 in the super chat. Joe Biden, like the corporate Democratic Party established, wants to brainwash and gaslight would-be 2020 Democratic candidates. Ooh, do I still have that? Oh, please tell me I still... Oh, I don't have it. I used to have a graphic, Joe Biden gaslighting America. I'll have to get that back. So, he's lying. He's lying. And I would love to know. I don't know if if there's more to that interview where he actually explains this. I'd love to know why did Hillary Clinton lose? Why did Hillary Clinton lose? Because he says, you guys got it all wrong why Hillary Clinton lost. Well, as far as I know, the media has been pushing that Hillary Clinton lost because the big bad Russians. Why does Joe Biden think Hillary Clinton lost? If it has nothing to do with the party moving to the left, maybe it's not just that the party's moving to the left. Maybe it's because the country is moving to the left. Something that is never reminded to people by the media. Something that never gets discussed but is true, even though people don't want to believe it's true. Even though people I know that I love, that are older, don't want to believe this is true. Donald Trump ran on many progressive economic policies. I was there. It wasn't that he was proposing tax cuts for Russians. He was proposing to repeal NAFTA, a very progressive policy that it caters to progressives. He was proposing to get out of all these countries and the wars we are in, a very progressive policy. He was proposing to take it to Goldman Sachs, fairly progressive. He was proposing, this isn't a very Republican thing to say, but we've got to cover everybody, universal health care. He had them at NAFTA. This is why many, 10% of people who voted for Barack Obama switched to Trump. So I'd love to hear Middle Class Joe. I'd love to hear No Malarkey Joe. Can you believe this idiot? He's literally going on a No Malarkey bus tour. And he has to leave the No Malarkey bus tour in Iowa to go do high dollar fundraisers in New York City Sky Towers. You can't make this shit up. He's leaving the No Malarkey. You know, I'm Middle Class Joe. I'm with the people. I'm eating corn on the bus in Iowa. But I need my private jet to come get me to go to a big finance fundraiser in New York. You cannot make this up. Schultze. Oh my God, so many awkward moments on this show. You don't know who I'm looking off to on the right. You have no idea. And you don't even know who I'm referencing. My girlfriend's not a Joe Biden supporter, thank God. I wouldn't date someone who was. Just keep it real. Thank you, Zia Hakimi. 2 A's. I don't know what the A currency is, but I appreciate the $2. Just found your channel. Excellent stuff. Thank you, Zia. Spread the word to others because YouTube makes it a little tricky and very difficult to find this channel. Thank you, and make sure you subscribe. And Zia, if you got $5 a month, consider signing up as a member. We're now at 745 status coup members. We want to get to 1,000 by the end of this year. That's going to be a tough climb, but I think we can get there. We're going to need all of you. By the way, I will be live this Sunday for the noon marathon live stream, so I hope you'll join me this Sunday for that. Thank you for the super chat, and welcome to Status Coup, Zia. So, what I find amazing about what Joe Biden is doing is he's actually punking himself. Because there's either two options. Either Joe Biden truly believes that the Democratic Party hasn't moved to the left. If he does truly believe that, then he's in for a big, big surprise. Or Joe Biden knows the Democratic Party has moved to the left, but he's trying to, like I opened the show, like the fossil fuel companies are doing, like all of these institutions that are being revolted against, he's just hoping he's on his last stand. He's an old Texas Ranger on his last stand, and he's gallantly hoping for one last gasp of air for the neoliberal establishment, and he's hoping that he could squeak out one last victory for the neoliberals. Well, I got news for you, Joe. I don't think you're gonna. Joe Biden's a very, very lucky man that, frankly, there's a lot of older African Americans that, I understand the reasons why, tend to vote for more establishment Democrats. They, through their history of slavery, of abuse, of murder, that they're used to the government basically giving them empty promises, lying, stealing, and enslaving them. So these older black voters tend to go for what's familiar and what they know. And a lot of older black voters tend to be more moderate Democrats. They don't go for the revolutionary political revolution stuff because that has never come for them. So I'm not white-splaining black voters. This is the truth. This is the truth. But I wish I knew how to do it. I gotta hide this user on the channel. Yeah. No. Jen's not here, but we, as best as we can, we're not accepting racist comments in this super chat or this show. So if people want to use derogatory language against black people or anyone else, you will be blocked as a commenter. Not interested. As my father once said, gutter language belongs in the gutter. So I think Joe Biden is in for a rude awakening, folks, because I think Joe Biden, frankly, I think he's going to, I think he'd be lucky if he ended up in 4th place in Iowa. I really do. I don't think young people are coming out for Joe Biden. I don't think Latinos are going to come out for Joe Biden. I honestly think a lot of people 40 to 50 will either come out for Warren, Buttigieg, or Bernie. And I think even the older voters in Iowa, they might come out, but Joe Biden better hope and pray there's enough of them, because I think Joe Biden is going to lose and lose badly in Iowa. Jordan is 30-something last time you mentioned it. 33. Thanks for the reminder. So what does this mean? Why is Joe Biden basically defying reality? Why is he pretending that, the party hasn't moved left? We'll see what his interview is. It airs Sunday. We'll see if he has an actual reason of why Hillary lost. But I think it's a very simple thing. Joe Biden, like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden is running for president because Joe Biden wants to be president. He's wanted to be president early on when he became a senator in the 70s. He wanted to be president in the 1980s. That's why he ran. He crashed and burned. He had to drop out because of plagiarism. He wants to be president. He thinks it's his turn. News reports say Hillary Clinton isn't running because, frankly, it's Biden's turn. But she will step in if Biden politically collapses. So he doesn't have a message. He doesn't have a vision for America. And because he's so out of touch, he doesn't realize it's not just that the country has moved left. It's that the country has awoken. The country has wised up to the empty rhetoric of the Democratic Party. Let's not pretend the Republicans are any better. The Republicans are terrible in their own right. But that's not a newsflash. The Republicans are pretty open that they don't care about black people. The Republicans are pretty open they don't care about working people. The Republicans are pretty open they do not want women deciding anything for themselves. So at least the Republican Party, you get a little truth in advertising. The Democrats are the ones saying, we're the party of the working people. The Democrats are the ones saying, we want to raise wages. We want to give everyone opportunity. We want, to have integrity in voting while we suppress the vote in the Democratic primary. So I don't think it's just that the party has moved left. I think it's that the country has moved into an anti-establishment revolt against people like Joe Biden. I think the national polls, listen, they say what they say. I believe most of the numbers nationally. But I think a lot of that is because most of these polls oversample older voters. But there's a lot more younger people voting these days. 2016 had a surge in younger voting. 2018 had a surge in voting. I'm sure when 2019 ends, when the numbers come out for governor's races and local races in 2019, you will also see a young voter surge. I also think you're going to have more than typical new voters come out in 2020 that have never voted before. So, truth is, I think Joe Biden is going to rule the day. He said the party is not where AOC is. He's going to rue the day. He says the party, it's not that it moved left. That has nothing to do with why Hillary lost. And I think he's going to rue the day that he basically called a voter a damn liar. And as the audience tells me, maybe I didn't look close enough, fat. I'll look again and confirm it. I think in Iowa, I think there's a very good chance Bernie Sanders upsets in Iowa. I also think there's a chance that Elizabeth Warren wins Iowa. I think, even though the polls say it, I don't believe Pete Buttigieg is going to win. I think this next debate's not going to look pretty for him. I also think, frankly, I think Cory Booker is going to drop out before Iowa. I really do. I think there's a good chance Amy Klobuchar drops out before Iowa. I think there's a good chance Tulsi Gabbard might drop out before Iowa. I think there's a good chance a lot of these people that are splintering the vote drop out before Iowa. But those voters are not all going to go to Joe Biden. They're not all going to go to Elizabeth Warren. They're not all going to go to Pete Buttigieg. So I think you're going to have a slimmer field by the Iowa caucus. So that's what I have to say about that. Did I just miss a super chat? Schultze 100, $2. It's coming down to Biden and Bernie, just them. I believe that. So finally, before I go tonight, and we're going to have a longer live stream on Sunday, I want to play, if you missed it, some of you have seen it, but some of you haven't. I want to play some of the I did a couple interviews from a protest in London. There was a protest of Trump, who was there having tea with the Queen of England, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and others. He was there for a 2-day NATO convention. That's when that video came out. I call it the Mean Girls video of Justin Trudeau, Emmanuel Macron, who, by the way, are you looking at the scenes out of France? Yellow Vest movement is on fire in France, and the police are living the beating shit out of them in France. That's what I'm talking. This is not just a neoliberal revolt in America. There is a neoliberal revolt happening all over the world right now, which I think is encouraging. So, Andrew Yang is going all the way. Yang is the one. I don't agree. Irvin Correa, $2 in the super chat. Thank you very much. So, at this event, I interviewed a few people, and I wanted to get a feel. Do you pay like 60% more as a citizen for government-run healthcare? Do you have to wait online for 6 months to, get the flu shot? Kind of talk about the system, because I hear from Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, whatever, we can't take away your choice. That we don't want to take away your choice to have private health insurance that charges you price gouging copays, price gouging premiums, price gouging EpiPens, price gouging. Do you need that choice? I thought it was a very, I had several interesting interviews, but this was very interesting. Jordan, you forget Yellow Vest tried to storm French Parliament, but where did it go? But were beat away by the cops. Chris Wynn, I didn't forget, but I am, with Jen, working on a massive story, so I can't follow everything. But I do know that the protests were significant in France. I didn't know that they stormed the French parliament and were hit away by police. But the police are out of control in France. Out of control. Yes, some of the Yellow Vest movement is very aggressive, but unless they're charging the police and about to shoot someone, which in America, the police seem to shoot if you breathe near them, they should be allowed to protest in France. Jordan, you're the best, the very best, the hardest working journalist for independent news. Blessed status quo. Why, thank you. I appreciate that. So I want to play a part of this interview, and we'll talk about it on the way back. Here we go. Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here at Trafalgar Square. I'm with Tom from the National Health Service, which has really come into play now as Trump is here for the NATO summit.
Absolutely.
And it seems like what I call the United Corporations of America is trying to get their hands on your great healthcare system. Can you kind of talk about what you guys are trying to do here? If you could show the knife on NHS and an image of President Trump.
Hi there. Yeah, so the NHS is something that very clearly big corporations around the world, specifically American corporations, absolutely want a piece of. We know now that Tory government officials, trade envoys, have been meeting in secret with their opposite numbers from America, and to begin with, all those documents were heavily redacted, i.e. kept secret, because they do show that, of course, especially drug pricing and in lots of other ways, the NHS is likely to be opened up with a Trump trade deal in this country. Now, the thing is, the background to all of this that makes this especially kind of emotive to people who use the NHS, people who work in the NHS, and just to the general public, is that we've now had 10 years or more absolutely devastating cuts by this right-wing conservative Tory government. We've seen staffing levels fall to really dangerous levels. And up to 2009, the NHS service was one of the best, I think, top 5 health services in the world, and actually cost per head about half as much as it costs per head the American taxpayer.
Wait, are you saying that government health care, which citizens pay a little bit more in taxes, you actually save money? Because in America, they fearmonger about that, saying you're going to raise your taxes, you're going to be paying for this socialized medicine. There's a lot of fearmonger in America, which here it doesn't seem to be true.
Well, I mean, part of the reason why it's not true and why a trade deal with the Trump administration is so frightening is precisely because whilst it's a publicly administered, publicly owned service, there are all kinds of rules and regulations about drug pricing being the obvious one, about workers' rights and so on. And so you end up having, when it's properly funded, you end up having a fit and healthy, committed workforce that don't, without huge turnover, you have drug prices that are entirely affordable and so on and so on. When the whole system is opened out to private interest, to the profit motive, then you start to see these prices absolutely soaring. Part of the money that the American taxpayer is paying is going directly to, because of drug pricing in the American health system, which is like, in some cases, and this isn't an exaggeration, 1,000% the price of what we pay for some of our drugs in this country. That's why it's so inefficient, if you like, cost-wise.
And just so the audience understands, Trump and the pharmaceutical companies in America are trying to gain access to the marketplace here, so that essentially drugs that currently have price controls through the NHS and the NHS's ability to negotiate drug prices, what Trump and the pharmaceutical companies here are trying to do is basically pull back those price controls.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhere in one of the documents there's a commitment from one of the US trade envoys saying, total liberalisation of drug prices and so on. I mean, it's the idea that essentially what is in a mainstream Western capitalist democracy, this gorgeous, gaping, great big contradiction that a kind of socialist institution can and does work really, really well, is in itself ideologically an anathema to the big corporations as well. So that's one of the reasons we've seen it intentionally defunded and slandered, if you like, as well, and all kinds of scaremongering going on in this country as well. So one of the big ones, which has this really ugly racist tinge to it, is that one of the reasons why the healthcare service is struggling, not because the government's slashing the funding, which it has been doing, as I say, at least since 2010, but probably a little before, is that the reason why it's struggling is that there's an influx of immigration into this country and refugees from Middle Eastern and predominant Muslim countries, and that's sucking the blood out of the NHS. We can't afford it anymore, and all this. I mean, it's a lie. I mean, so-called health tourism is like less than 0.1% of the NHS spend, and actually one of the things that makes this NHS great is it's a no questions asked service. Like, you turn up in distress, you get healthcare. Nobody wants to see your passport number and so on until they've got a reason to, as of late, doubt it because of the new thing. Now, I've been in the States, and a friend of mine was sick, and we were in Hollywood Presbyterian, which has got its nice bit upstairs and its terrible bit downstairs for the plebeians like ourselves. And somebody comes around, as you guys will know, with a clipboard and asks how you're going to pay and all this kind of stuff. I mean, for people in this country, whether you're on the left or on the right or wherever it is you sit politically, that kind of thing is horrifying, and something that we're really fighting really hard to defend in this country. It's not how it works here. So if some people come over to get, to give birth, for example, for free, like, it's one of the great things about the NHS that can happen. And as I say, while it's only costing less than 0.1%, hey.
But it also is interesting to me because what you're describing basically is America and the pharmaceutical companies trying to privatize a foreign government system, because it seems that in the UK, like America, there is a really exploding progressive movement, a workers' rights movement.
Absolutely.
And essentially their response to that, it seems the Tories in this case, is to try and privatize and to try and squash the workers' revolt, so to speak. Because even before privatization attempts from America to try and gain access to marketplace here, you were saying, I mean, the Tories have been defunding this. So when you basically did try and demolish your own system, you could then say, oh, it doesn't work. We need, it's basically you're destroying your own system to then privatize it.
Exactly that. And that is the case that we've been making for a long time now. It is very much intentional. The whole austerity program, which is, I'm not sure, to be honest, whether or not it's a buzzword or not in the States so much, but certainly through all the mainstream European countries, austerity has been, post 2008 crash, has been perversely the way that governments are trying to fix the problem of so-called overspending. And then right at the centre of that is a total lie, is the idea that the 2008 banking crisis was caused by government overspending and not by banks and speculating on mortgages and loans and all the rest of it, as we know is the case. And so ordinary working people have been, in Europe at least, have been forced to pay for this crisis. And it's kind of disaster capitalism, but it's disasters that are totally engineered in this case. So yeah, absolutely, you devastate social services, you devastate the welfare state.
So that was part of my interview with one fine chap in London, Tom. He's with a group called Keep NHS Public. You could watch the whole interview up on the channel. I did a couple other interviews that we've been putting up over the last few days. And one thing that I found really interesting, and I kind of knew this, but you get it a little bit more when you're on the ground talking to people there. All of this narrative and fear-mongering that has gone on in America. Oh, right, I skipped the end. The end was, he basically said, you get healthcare here because you're a person. You're a person. It was wonderful, wonderful soundbite. We got a little traction on it. Bernie's campaign shared it. Nina Turner's shared it. Bernie's press secretary shared it. A lot of people shared it. I think it got like 40 to 50,000 views on Twitter, which is awesome. So, and there's a part 2 to that interview as well, so go check it out. But the thing that stood out to me the most is you have this propaganda in America, and it's not just the Republicans that push it out. It's Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, the Democratic Party, and Michael Moore in one of his movies, Where to Invade Next, kind of exposed a lot of this. But there's a lot of propaganda that these other countries, you have to wait online for 6 months, for to get a Band-Aid, or you have to wait so long, and it's inadequate care and all this stuff. And in some cases, I don't know about 6 months, in some cases that's true, not because the countries are inferior, not because if you take away the profit motive, if you take away, if you remove the commoditization of healthcare, it produces inferior services, but because the governments themselves are sabotaging their own system by making extreme cuts. In countries where the healthcare systems that are publicly funded, meaning you pay a little bit more as a citizen, it's just part of your taxes and you get the healthcare, when those countries actually invest the appropriate level of hospitals, the right number of doctors, the right number of nurses, the right number of medical equipment, all of that. When they actually invest the resources needed, you go to the doctor pretty much when you need to. Emergency services, you get in right away if you need an emergency service. If you have, if you need a specialty doctor for a non-urgent matter, you might have to wait a week to 2 weeks. I got news for you. If I call the sleep doctor right now, in America, with my health insurance, in the past, I've gotten, I could get you in 2 months. Same thing for the gastroenterologist. Same thing for a neurologist. I mean, in America, it's not like, even with healthcare, for specialty doctors, you could get in that day. But in the UK, and other interviews I did show this as well, in those cases where there is a wait, it's because the government, which for the last 10 years has been right-wing, in UK with the Tories. It wasn't just Boris Johnson. It was Theresa May, David Cameron. When was David Cameron Tories? I think so. Yeah. So when the government is, in the UK in this case, pulling away, de-investing, giving tax breaks to corporations like America does, giving tax cuts to wealthy donors, pulling the nurses. The video's up on the channel. A doctor with the National Health Service, it's called NHS in Great Britain, she passionately spoke. They're down, I think it was something like 500,000 nurses over the last decade. That's insane. And I might be getting the number wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 500,000. They're down nurses, they're down doctors, they're down hospitals. It's all been cut. One older woman I interviewed with a lovely sign said they're trying to sell off everything because they're trying to privatize the system. So when your auntie or uncle tell you, oh, you want to go wait online for 7 months in Denmark? You want to go do that? Yeah. In the rare countries you have to do that, it's because the government is sabotaging the system. Listen, I wasn't a fan of Obamacare in the first place. Is it better than the SOL healthcare system we have, where we all pay for the uninsured to go to the emergency room? Yeah, it was better than that. Is it the system we need? Hell no. But part of the reason Obamacare hasn't worked, I don't think it was meant to work in the first place. We need universal Medicare for all. But part of the reason Obamacare has become more and more expensive in recent years is because the Trump administration has been sabotaging it. Well, it's the same thing in the UK and other countries. When the government is de-investing and basically cutting the funding you need, you might have to wait. You might get substandard care. That's not because socialized medicine isn't an ideal and the right system. It's because the capitalists in places like the UK are trying to sabotage the system. So I thought that was a really poignant point. I also thought, and this isn't the first time I've seen this, when I was in Germany 2 years ago, I actually met up, at that time I was at the Young Turks, so I met up for dinner with two viewers, and it was just kind of like, it's just part of your psychology as a citizen. It's just like, yeah, we get health care. It's always amazing to me when you go to these other countries, they just find it not just shameful, but just like odd. Like, yeah, we don't get it. Why do you pay for the doctor? Because it's just part of their life since they were children, because they live in a civilized society. I interviewed one older woman that after reprimanding me for asking her political questions, she only wanted to talk about the wonderful sign that she stitched together. She said, I got the measles as a young child when the NHS started, the National Health Service in the UK. Without that service, without the government provided health care, what would have happened to that woman with the measles? So, obviously I cover, American politics, but we could learn a lot about the corruption here by looking to other countries. And now, Jeremy Corbyn has brought this up, and others in the Labour Party in the UK and others. Trump and Boris Johnson are negotiating a possible trade deal between the US and the UK. And Big Pharma in America and Trump are saying, we want to gain access to your healthcare marketplace. We want to be able to get our drugs in greater numbers into your marketplace. And part of that is weakening the price controls that are built in to the UK system. That is how single-payer Medicare for all systems work. You have to have price controls, which come because the government can negotiate drug prices, which we cannot do here. So it's super, super interesting. There's also a viral video that went around, I wish it was mine, while I was in the UK, of, I don't remember which outlet, going around asking UK citizens to guess how much certain healthcare cost in America. And it was priceless. The citizens were shocked. They were guessing like insulin costs like, I don't know, $20, $30. They couldn't believe it when they were being told it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This is the corrupt, immoral system we live under. And frankly, I'm not blaming you, older viewers, for the older viewers we have, but I am blaming the older voters that are siding with Joe Biden, that are being brainwashed by Biden, Buttigieg, MSNBC, because they have been conditioned and brainwashed to be content with this corruption, to be content with this immoral system, to be content and conditioned to believe, yeah, we should have to pay for health care. There is a better way, and it exists all around the world. So definitely, if you haven't seen the videos, there's at least 4 or 5, probably more actually, interviews I did in Great Britain. My girlfriend was an amazing camera woman, and we walked that day. Let me tell you something. We walked probably 30,000 steps before that protest. So we were very, very tired. She was holding up that camera without a monopod. It takes a lot of muscle to hold up that camera still. So she did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you, thank you. And she's finally coming over very quickly to the Bernie Sanders side of things. She was forewarned for a while, but I could tell she's weakening. She's finally coming over to the right side. So we're happy about that. So all is well. All is well. We had a lovely, lovely time. Let me tell you something. I really, really like, I wouldn't want to live in London, but I do love these old English pubs. I love the old English pubs. I really do. So, thank you for watching. Remember, we have a new checklist. I usually say it at the beginning, but there's a couple new things I want you to do. Text 474747, 474747, and enter Coup to join our text alert system. We'll send out a text alert for the Sunday show. I'll be live noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Sunday. And follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv. That's twitch.tv/statuscoup. That's super important. A couple other public service announcements I mentioned at the beginning of Jordan is converting Warren supporters one girlfriend at a time. I only have one girlfriend. Don't start. I only want one girlfriend. So remember, we were looking for a camera person. I believe, fingers crossed, we might be bringing somebody on starting next week. Which would entail me being able to go cover the campaign in New Hampshire. I think it's time I get in front of but in front of the fine Pete Buttigieg. I think it's time I get in front of Joe Biden. What do you think? So we're definitely hoping in the next 2 weeks, hopefully, to be up in New Hampshire. We're also going to have Marcus in Iowa after Christmas. We're going to have Marcus there for a couple of weeks covering the campaign in Iowa. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, we can only grow through you. If you've been on the fence, sign up. Statuscoup.com/join. We're now at 745 Status Coup members. We want to grow this pie. And it's important that we grow organically through you. And that's through small dollar subscriptions. Statuscoup.com/join. You could sign up as a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. And before I go, since I was off for a week, figured I'll take a couple questions, comments, concerns from you fine viewers. Jordan, please don't hire another cop apologist. Shaking my head. Who did I hire that was a cop apologist? I must have missed that. What happened to Joseph? I already talked about this. Didn't work out. Don't want to really get into it, but I wish him well. Just didn't work out. This is what happens in a startup too, by the way. You know, you try, you try with certain people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's really all I could say. Nothing more sinister. Jen is at a Christmas thing with her kids, so she'll be back in the Super Chat Sunday. Emergency, I can't use 474747. Why not? Why can't you use 474747? Just enter 474747 and then enter Coup, and it will add you to our list. Jordan, when are we going to see the ring? Don't you start Upstate Raider. Don't you start the Rumorville. There's no ring yet. You're going to get my girlfriend excited, though. There's no ring coming unless there's a vote for Bernie Sanders. That I can promise you. That's not happening. Emergency, I can't use 474747. Is this the same person? Tell me what's going on. I don't know. Nina, vice president? I've said that for a while. I'm Nina. I'm on the Nina train for vice president. And by the way, I saw a Tulsi person pushing this nonsense about Tulsi, that I'm being tough on Tulsi for not coming out about Bolivia, but I'm not tough on Bernie when he didn't come out about the coup on Venezuela early enough. Roll back the tape. I did criticize Bernie Sanders for not coming out on the coup in Venezuela. So, wrong. Incorrect. Aditi Hyder, $10 in the super chat. Thank you, Aditi. Appreciate it. Jordan, love when you use Yiddish when it comes to these corporate candidates. I need some fresh insults for these goons. What Yiddish did I use? Booty judge? Is that you? Is that Yiddish? Jordan, I sent you a super chat. Please make sure to bug Buttigieg about his military intelligence test. I shall. I'm going to bug Buttigieg. He'll be lucky if it's just bugging. I'm going to do a lot more. No ring needed. Love each other. Oh, that's so sweet. PJ Coin, €5. I'm starting to get this right. The two lines are euros. How did you find the MSN in the UK? Let me tell you something. I was surprised because I was watching the BBC in the hotel room and I was like, this is so much better than the crap we have here. But then a taxi driver in London was complaining to us about the BBC, saying they're really the Brussels broadcasting company because they're so anti-Brexit and they only bring on people that are anti-Brexit. So it was interesting to me. This taxi driver, who was definitely more on the, I'd say, Tory, Boris Johnson, kind of sounded like a Trump voter. He was a nice guy, but definitely was buying the stuff that the immigrants are taking our jobs and open borders is bad and yada, yada, yada. He said BBC is no good, but I thought the BBC is 10 times better than the crap we have here. So I can't tell you what I thought about the broader media because I didn't really see much. Did you see any other media at the protests we were covering? No. Yeah, I didn't see any other media there, so I don't know. Is schmuck Yiddish? I didn't know that's Yiddish. BBC hates Jezza beware. Who's Jezza? Propaganda and still better. That's very well put. Thoughts of Irish pubs, Ireland, awesome. I have never been to Ireland, but I want to go. I loved London's pubs, so if London's pubs are good, Ireland's are probably way better. Gotta tell you the truth, though. Fish and chips was good, but, like, can you really live off fish and chips? I don't know. I actually thought it was fish. It's fried fish. It kind of tasted a little bit like a chicken finger to me. Because I like salmon, not to be bougie, but yes, I do like London. I liked afternoon afternoon tea, which is kind of bougie. I wouldn't do it regularly, but I did enjoy the afternoon tea. What else did I like? I did like the Churchill War Museum. Do I think Corbyn what? Do I think he will win? I don't want to say because I don't know enough about UK politics. He was down. He had a surge in the polls. I think he was down 9 points when I left. The election's on December 11th. I think it's possible he could win. I think it's possible. I think he'd be way better than Boris Johnson. I know a lot of people, including some people next to me, think he's wildly anti-Semitic. I don't think he's anti-Semitic, but I think he's said some things that blur the line, and he needs to communicate himself better. He could be anti-Israel in terms of thinking that they are being terrible with the Palestinians. However, he has met with Hamas leaders and things like that, which to me, I don't like that.
He's friends with them. He hasn't met with them.
He's friends with them. Excuse me. So, but he is by far the most progressive prime minister there in a long time. Adam Nation, no, he isn't. Adam Nation says you're wrong. My girlfriend thinks he's anti-Semitic. So, what can I tell you? He is not. It is a smear campaign. Andrei Herzegovich says it's a smear campaign. Why don't you respond to him in the chat? Good question, Jennifer. But I wish I could have stayed for the actual election, but had to come back and work here. But I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping to go to Italy next. I've never been to Italy other than my conception. I was made there. If you want to know, in Venice. My parents were there. But I'd love to go to Italy. I'd love to go to Ireland. And I'd actually like very, very much. I'd love to go to Bali. I'd love to go to Bali and do my Eat, Pray, Love. Pop Reality, $2. Bernie truly has a chance to win this. I don't want you to get too excited because there's always... By the way, this isn't being talked about enough. Don't think the DNC behind the scenes isn't trying to screw Bernie. They're trying to screw Bernie. They're just not stupid enough to write it in emails anymore. But they're trying to screw him every which way. And they're also doing it through the local state parties. So the Iowa Democratic Party, the New Hampshire Democratic Party, they're getting their marching orders from the DNC too. Don't think the DNC and Tom Perez are just, honoring their word and this and that. No. Try Barbados. That's a good idea too. Are you going to a Warren rally soon? Yes. I'm going to be at Buttigieg, Warren, Biden. Maybe Yang, just to be fair and cover as many sides as I can. But I do want to go to a Warren rally. I think she needs some questioning too. Because her healthcare plan don't make sense. I want to know what her actual vision of the world is, foreign policy-wise. I'd also like to know, will she rule out Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, or any of these other corporate tools as vice president? I don't think she will, and I want to get that on tape. I also would like to know, for a little bit more information on some of the work she did as a corporate lawyer, representing companies that were trying not to pay money for the asbestos that they inflicted on people, for mining companies that contaminated communities that she represented as a corporate lawyer. That hasn't come up much. I'd like to ask her some questions about that. We shall see. Smary, my super chat will never be read. Oh no, Smary, what was your super chat? Did I miss it? Hold on. Smary. What's your super chat? I don't see it. Smary, say it down in the chat. You don't have to do another super chat. I'm looking for it now. Whatever your comment was. Mitch Devi, Warren rally soon. Here's the deal. I'm just giving you behind the scenes. We didn't have a cameraman for a few weeks. I'm talking to someone now about bringing this person on for, let's just call it a trial run. So that person and I are meeting next week. We're going to go through the live view because obviously I need somebody who knows how to use the live view, which you guys funded. It was not cheap, about $10,000 for us to buy this live view, but we needed it. So yeah, after I meet with this person, probably early this coming week, we're going to hit the road and go to Iowa. So I will be on the road rather soon. And we also will have Marcus, don't forget about him, in Iowa in January. Right after Christmas, he's going to be going to Iowa for at least 2 or 3 weeks for us because we want to have somebody on the ground there to cover the Iowa caucus. I'll help you with the live view. Why, thank you, Victoria Thomas. Okay, sorry if I missed your super chat. I'm looking now, but I don't see. What is live view? It's a mobile satellite. So most big corporate companies actually send satellite trucks to live events. That costs, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So other companies that are mobile use something called a live view, which is basically a mobile satellite that allows you to go live, not on your phone, through this system. It's a lot clearer picture. And if you get one, there's different ones. We used to have the bottom of the barrel one because that's all we could afford. But we just got the second to the top. The top level was like $25,000. So we got the second to the best level, which was $13,000, but we got it for about 10. So yes, it basically binds different internet providers to each other and phone providers. So binds AT&T to Verizon. Throw in Sprint, throw in T-Mobile, binds them together and creates a stronger signal to go live. So that's what it does. John suggests, if I miss any of your super chats or anything like that, email me info@statuscoup.com. That's info@statuscoup.com, and enter your question, comment, and concern, and I'll try to get back to you. Jordan, what questions would you like to ask Madeleine Albright? I've never thought about what questions I'd like to ask Madeleine Albright. Why, is there a big thing going on with Madeleine Albright? And by the way, I don't want it to be lost that there was another shooting in America today. 4 dead, including the shooter in Pensacola, Florida. Currently, it's being talked about as a Saudi, what did they say, a Saudi...
Oh, a Saudi national.
Saudi national. There was also shootings while I was away. But it's normalized and nobody cares about those anymore. So, thank you for watching. I'll be live Sunday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern. And I look forward to seeing you. If there's breaking news before then, I will be on it. And by the way, don't think I forgot about Hillary Clinton. I'm saving that for Sunday. Maybe there will be more goodies with Hillary coming up before Sunday at noon Eastern. Thank you for watching. Peace